Mic test, mic test, mic test.
Test, test. No, tap, nope. Test, test. No.
We should. We definitely should. Cute. Okay, we'll do it again. That's awesome. Here, I want one. I mean, I'm sure. All right. Ready? Yeah, very cute. We'll have to get a body shot because we're like twins. I know, right? Yeah, after. We can do it after.
Nope, none of that's, I don't know.
And who's sweater?
That was all the movies after that.
Bill, I'm just going to play through We Believe in Christmas while everybody's getting set so we don't have dead time.
What's that about? So this is Christmas?
So this is Christmas, and what have you done? Another year over, a new one just begun. And so this is Christmas, I hope you have fun. You're near and your dear ones, the old and the young. A very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Let's hope it's a good one without any fear. So this is Christmas, for weak and for strong, the rich and the poor ones have waited so long. And so happy Christmas for black and for white, for all of the people. Let's stop all the fight So this is Christmas, and what have you done? Another year over, a new one just begun. And so this is Christmas. I hope you have fun. You're near and your dear ones, the old and the young. A very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Let's hope it's a good one without any fear. War is over if you want it. War is over now.
Good morning and welcome to Live Oak. Please rise in body or spirit for our gathering hymn, number 248, Oh, We Believe in Christmas.
Oh, we believe in Christmas, and we keep Christmas Day, and we will honor Christmas, the ancient worldwide way, the Christmas of all peoples, the sun's returning cheer, rung out from towers and steeples at midnight of the year. And we will join at Christmas the song of hope and joy that finds its theme at Christmas in every girl and boy. The flame of life will dwindle as fades the sunset sky, until a child shall kindle new light and raise that high. Shine out, ye lights of Christmas, from hearth and tree and star, and let the warmth of Christmas shed kindness near and far, and clang ye bells of Christmas upon the frosty air, and may the joy of Christmas spread gladness everywhere.
Good morning and welcome, beloved community. I'm Reverend Joanna. In this sacred space, we gather as one, celebrating the tapestry of our diversity, honoring the boundless love that unites us all. Live Oak Unitarian Universalist Church is unambiguously, unapologetically progressive, and our doors swing wide to embrace all who seek a welcoming place where we celebrate the LGBTQIA+ community, where we know that every identity is a divine expression of humanity, where we commit to the work of dismantling systemic racism and other oppressions, striving for a world where equity, compassion, and justice are the cornerstones of our shared existence. May our worship today be a source of inspiration, a wellspring of courage, and a call to action. Advent is the season of preparation and waiting for Christmas, and it is celebrated on the 4 Sundays prior to Christmas. At Live Oak, we light our Advent wreath to remind ourselves of this cycle of the seasons and the vision of peace and hope breaking through. On this 3rd Sunday of Advent, we light a candle for joy. As Universalist Eunice Waite Cobb wrote, "I do not ask for this faith because I shrink from paying the great debt of nature, but I ask for it that I may have respect for myself, that I may feel life is worth living, that good is worth striving for above and beyond its mere return of earth. And above all else, I ask for this faith because it makes life grand and gives to us sublime possibilities. And further, it gives a substance of joy and bliss, which nothing earthly ever gave and which nothing of earth can take away." How are you embracing joy in each day? May the light of this candle help us to bring more joy into the world.
My name is Mark Anderson, and I want to give a special welcome to any visitors we have today in person or online. If you haven't already, I encourage you to stop by our visitors table in the narthex after the service to sign up for our weekly email newsletter and so we can meet you and answer any questions you may have. Unitarian Universalism is a non-creedal faith. There are no doctrines you have to agree with in order to belong. Instead, we are held together by covenant, our promises to each other in this church and within our religious tradition. Please join me in these words from our historic faith. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. We unite with UU churches around the world by lighting our flaming chalice, the symbol of our religion. Today, Teddy Van Winkle will be lighting our chalice. Here and at home, we light it today with these words by Julianne Lepp. We seek our place in the world and the answers to our heart's deep questions. As we seek, may our hearts be open to unexpected answers. May the light of our chalice remind us that this is a community of warmth, of wisdom, and welcoming of multiple truths.
Unitarians, let nothing you dismay. Remember, there's no evidence of that first Christmas day. When Christ was born is just not known, no matter what they say. Oh, tidings of reason and fact, glad tidings of reason and fact. Our current Christmas customs come from Persia and from Greece, from solstice celebrations of the ancient Middle East.
told on Christmas meal is just another pagan feast. Oh, tidings of reason and fact, reason and fact, glad tidings of reason and fact. There was no star of Bethlehem, there was no angel song, there couldn't have been wise men, for the trip would take too long. The stories in the Bible are historically wrong. Oh, tidings of reason and fact, reason and fact, glad tidings of reason and fact.
From Celebrating Christmas, Don W. Vaughn. Christmas is not an easy time for many religious liberals, either theologically or existentially. What, we ask, are we to celebrate, Christmas or Hanukkah? Are we to build creches or light menorahs? Or should we instead, with pagan abandon, sacrifice our passion to the golden fire of the mistletoe? Or with consumerish complacency, render our gold in tribute to the profit gods of the department store? We have trouble deciding just what has most claim on us, although by default, mistletoe and commerce often win out. Existentially, the winter season has contrasts that cut past our bones and into our souls. As we approach the end of the year, we know the hard continuing freeze is on its way. We feel the diminishment of day before encroaching night. We are confused because the world is going one way and we would go another. Suddenly, we want warmth and light, companionship that reassures, and acts that speak of a brighter world. But none of this is cause for not pursuing the winter celebration. It rather is the reason for it. If you cannot choose between creches, mistletoe kisses, or gifts, use them all. They are there for you, not you for them. If the cold and gloom threaten, don't let them. Look on them as but another of nature's backgrounds against which the brightness of human imagination and the warmth of human sharing stand out. We have reason to celebrate and many tools with which to do it. May this be a year in which all these come together for you. Thus ends our reading.
For the past 31 years, Live Oak has been a beacon of acceptance, love, and inclusivity in an area where our values often challenge the status quo. In a world where divisiveness and intolerance seem to grow stronger, we firmly believe in the transformative power of our faith and the positive impact we are having in our area. We invite you to make a financial contribution to help sustain this church's vital work, knowing that every gift, large and small, is appreciated and carefully used in service to our mission. Stewardship of this church takes many forms, and all of them are gifts. Gifts of money, gifts of time, gifts of service. Today we recognize the gift of service with the Bronze Acorn Award, which is given to a team that exemplifies the giving of time and talent to help Live Oak advance our mission. Would the members of the marketing team please come forward? Becky Gregory, Jennifer Rose Hale, Luke West, and Reverend Joanna. The marketing team creates the materials for sharing information about our church with the wider community, because we know that there are people out there that need us, and we need them to do this great work of building beloved community in our area. And over the past year, the flyers, brochures, posters, social media graphics, etc., have been coming from this team. And also, right now, little plug, you can get a special special window decal designed by Jennifer Hale. And we will have those out in the narthex. So please join me in celebrating and showing our appreciation for the Live Oak marketing team. Your financial gifts allow us to continue this kind of good work. Let this time of offering be a reflection of our shared commitment for making a positive impact on the world and a reminder that our Unitarian Universalist values guide us not only in our beliefs, but also in our actions. Thank you for your presence today and your contributions to our ongoing journey of building the beloved community here and in our wider parish. Our time for all ages today is the book, The Christmas Trolls. And if there is anyone who would like to come forward and get a little closer, you are absolutely invited to do so. So this is The Christmas Trolls, written and illustrated by Jan Brett. I'm Treva. And the day my brother Sammy and I went to our neighbor's farm to pick out a Christmas tree was a beginning of the most unforgettable Christmas I ever had. As we went home through the forest with a perfect tree packed on the sleigh, Tuffy started sniffing and barking. I couldn't see anything, but I felt sure that someone was watching us. When we arrived home, we forgot all about the forest. Mom and Dad had brought out our boxes of ornaments to decorate the tree. Sammy and I put evergreen wreaths, mistletoe, and holly all around the house. We had already wrapped our presents and hidden them away for Christmas morning. Then some of our Christmas decorations started to disappear. I didn't notice until Dad asked if I had moved the trinket box he had hidden for Mom. I shivered because Mom had asked me the same thing about the mitt behind them. Tuffy was acting strange too. He sniffed and barked and ran around in circles as if he were looking for something. Then a few days before Christmas, the treetop angel was gone. What would be next? I started carrying my favorite red horse everywhere. Early the next morning when I went to feed Arnie, I saw something fly across the snow. It was our Christmas pudding. What? I harnessed Arnie, bells and all, and raced into the forest. As I got closer, I could see that our pudding was being carried along, pin-cushioned to the top of a hedgehog. I didn't know what to do, so I yelled, "Stop! Come back!" But it didn't stop until it reached the bottom of 4 fir trees. The hedgehog put the pudding down and scampered off. Just then, the trees started rocking back and forth. Suddenly, a funny-looking ladder dropped down from above, and 2 trolls scurried down, pouncing on the pudding before I could even move. They pulled it back and forth as they went up the ladder, squabbling all the way to the top. I climbed up right after them and looked inside. There on the floor of their troll house were all of our Christmas things in a heap. The trolls were grabbing at them, each one wanting what the other one had. "Hey, trolls," I called. "Those are our Christmas things." The trolls dove onto the pile, clutching our gifts. "Mine," they clamored. "Mine, mine." I looked at them and had to smile. Their shirt tails were hanging out, their pants were torn and patched, their cheeks were bright red, and their hair was standing straight up from all the pulling and tugging at each other. "Christmas," they wailed. "We want Christmas." "You want Christmas?" I asked, puzzled. "Yes," they said. "Give us Christmas." "Well, you can't just take Christmas," I said. The trolls looked surprised. They squeaked, they gulped, they shuffled their feet. "Want Christmas," they said, miserable. "Okay, you can have Christmas, but first, what are your names?" "Mig," said one. "Tig," said the other. I looked around their messy hut. "Mig, Tig, let's begin by getting your house ready for Christmas." I started to straighten up and put things away. They began to help, just as I'm sure y'all are helping the people you live with to get ready for Christmas. Right? Right. We went outside and gathered evergreens, berries, and pine cones. "Now we need a Christmas tree," I told them. "That's easy. You live in the trees. You can have 4 trees instead of just 1 if you want to." "Christmas trees," they shouted, jumping up and down, and we decorated each of the trees that held up the troll house. Tig and Mig had a small setback on the way back to the hut. I knew I had some more explaining to do. When I first got here, you were snatching things for yourselves and acting really grumpy. Try playing together and having some fun. "Fun?" they asked. I showed them how to jump rope. I told them how much I liked their knots and earrings. They smiled shyly and started tucking in their shirt tails. "Nice hair. Pretty belt," they said, grinning at me. And they taught me a little troll dance. They were catching on. Now, if you really want Christmas, you must be generous with each other. If you do that, you'll have Christmas right here in your troll house. The trolls cocked their heads and squinted. They were trying hard to understand. "How?" they pleaded. I felt my red horse in my pocket. Her favorite red horse. I knew I had to show them, so I took it out and I gave it to them. "This is for you." The trolls squealed and jumped up and down with glee. They took turns passing my horse back and forth, happily playing together. It was time for me to go home. I slipped out quietly and climbed down to Arnie. To my surprise, their hedgehog had packed all of our presents on the sleigh for me to take home while we were having Christmas in the troll house. On Christmas morning, Sammy and I ran downstairs to find our tree alight with candles and our stockings filled. We opened our presents in front of the fire, but this Christmas was full of surprises. I heard a bumping and a scratching noise. Tuffy barked. I listened and followed the sounds. Outside on the doorstep was a Christmas present. I unwrapped it and found a wild and wonderful troll horse. "Tig and Mig," I exclaimed. When I held it, I knew for sure that the trolls understood Christmas, and I knew that this was the best Christmas ever. And thus ends the story.
please rise as you are willing and able for our hymn, Away in a Manger.
Away in a Manger. What a heretical song. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This is a strange time of year, right? It can be a little confusing. Move this out of the way. I tend to move around when I get excited, and Christmas makes me excited. But it also makes me confused because we get these really conflicting messages, right? You have these very loud voices who absolutely believe that everyone should be celebrating Christmas. It should be in the public square and in the public schools. And don't you dare say, Happy Holidays. How offensive. What are you on about, Andy Williams? Don't you know the only acceptable thing to say is Merry Christmas? These are the people who seek to gatekeep all of December. And yet at the same time, it is often those same people who seek to gatekeep Christmas, their definition of Christmas, telling you to keep the Christ in Christmas. And Jesus is the reason for this season. Now, if you came from a conservative, let me emphasize conservative, a conservative Christmas background, if you're here, I'm kind of going to assume that you have left that. Otherwise, book an appointment for me because there may be some things that you're still struggling with there to be in a Unitarian Universalist church. And so you probably have become progressive Christian or not Christian at all, maybe atheist. And so this time of year can be very confusing as you try to figure out, what do you celebrate? And do you even have a right to celebrate Christmas? But the thing is, that whole message, that this idea that Christmas is a time of high conservative religiosity, has never been true. Historically, that is simply inaccurate. If we actually look at the history, this is and always has been a holiday for heretics. I can never tell where I'm going to get applause, but I always love it. So what is heresy anyway? And I imagine for many people, like, this seems like a really old-fashioned term, like something that should have died away with, the Spanish Inquisition, or at least Monty Python's joke about the Spanish Inquisition. As someone who does theology in the public square of social media, I am here to tell you, heresy and calling people heretics is still very important to some people. Heresy, at its most basic, heresy simply means an idea that certain people who had religious authority have determined to be wrong. And not only wrong, but not acceptable, not allowable. And something that, in fact, that they believe there should be consequences for having that idea and certainly for sharing it. The list of named heresies, this is just a taste of it. There are so many different, again, this is simply whenever you had a group of people, and it was men, like, not to pick on you, but y'all were the ones that had the power, right? Men were the ones who decided on what were heresies. There's an idea that someone has, and then someone else says, you are wrong, and that is a heresy, and you should never say it again. Some of these named heresies up here are very personal to us. Arianism and Socinianism are two of the anti-Trinitarian or Unitarian heresies. Universalism, the idea that God, whatever God is good and is love and would never condemn people to eternal hell. That is also a heresy. And in fact, to be serious about it, we have theological forebears who have given their lives for the chance to be able to think freely. The word heresy comes from an etymology that means to choose. The thing is, this whole tendency to draw a very small box of what is correct and what is not, what is unacceptable, seems to be just a very human impulse. I mentioned that at least there's actually several up here that are specifically around the doctrine of the Trinity, and I think this is one of these really kind of good examples of how free thinking is just going to happen and what happens when the anxiety of another group says, no, it has to, make it smaller, which is something we should never do with mystery and mysticism. Look, when it comes to the doctrine of the Trinity, for those who don't know, I went to a Christian seminary. That was not a hill that when I was in seminary I was willing to die on. It just wasn't that important to me because it's a metaphor. And it's a metaphor for understanding what is a great mystery to many people. And I think that if they had left the doctrine of the Trinity as that, then we would be in such a better place as humans. But instead, anytime anyone tried to explain the Trinity in any sort of a logical way, because, again, not really my hill I'm going to die on, but by the same token, it is an illogical concept. Logic is not, you can believe in it as a metaphor, but something is three all the time and is also one all the time is not a concept that is logical. And so you would have people over, thousands of years who would try and make it a little bit more understandable. If you came from a Christian background and you ever had, your childhood religious educator trying to explain the Trinity to you, like as an egg, like the different parts of an egg. Did anyone ever get that one? Or like the 3 leaves of a clover. They were actually committing heresy That's a form of heresy called modalism. Whenever anyone tried to explain this, there was always someone who would say, no, that is heresy. And again, there's this desire to make things as small and as concrete as they can, which we can do for things that are fact-based, but we can't do with the great mysteries. I, of course, am going to go into some systems theory. You know I am. Where this desire comes from is a lack of self-differentiation. Self-differentiation means we understand where we end and another person begins, and we understand that we have the right to our own ideas, and other people also have the right to their own ideas, even if they completely conflict with ours. But when we are not self-differentiated, we want to try and make that box very small so that we can be very clear who are the people who agree with me and who are the people on the outside. And it often goes to some ridiculous lengths. So 2 of our hymns that we are going to sing today have been declared heretical. And I was not joking. We just sang one of them. Away in a Manger. Anyone know why this is considered to be a heretical song? So there is one of the heresies is called Docetism. And Docetism, kind of the opposite of Unitarianism, where we would see historically Jesus as being fully human, Docetism saw Jesus as being fully God, and anything that looked human, it was just an appearance. Jesus was fully God. And so there are people, Google it, I am not making this up. There are people who will say, little Lord Jesus, no crying he makes. What do babies do? They cry. Therefore, this song is guilty of the heresy of Docetism. The hymn that we are going to sing later on in the service, probably one familiar to most of us, it came upon a midnight clear. Oh, that can really get the heretic hunters all twisted up because they see it as being heresy on so many multiple levels. I think their biggest issue is the fact that it was written by Edmund Sears, who was a Unitarian. So like just the creator itself, they're going to start with an assumption of heresy. But Sears was really into mysticism. And this particular line, they see that as evoking pagan imagery. Well, it is. It is. Absolutely. They're not wrong. Also with this song, the one thing it doesn't talk about is Jesus. It's all about the angels, right? One person, this is a modern time heretic hunter, an Orthodox priest by the name of Jeffrey Coors, says some carols are actually openly heretical. The 19th century song, It Came Upon a Midnight Clear, is a case in point, written by a Unitarian minister. The song explicitly sets out to popularize the idea that one can celebrate Christmas without the reality that God took on human flesh, expunging any supernatural references and making a miracle out of the birth of a great man. Heresy, heresy. Lest we begin feeling smug. This is not a Christian impulse. This is a human impulse. And we are just as prone to it as anyone. Back when I was growing up, a Unitarian Universalist in the 70s and 80s. So humanism has since about 1930 been a huge influence on Unitarian Universalism. And humanism is the idea that we as humans have the capability and the responsibility to do great things, and we do not require a god in order to do those things. In the 70s and 80s, we were really leaning into that, so much so that if something could not be proven scientifically, we wanted no part of it. I am a big fan of the scientific method, but I am also a big fan of metaphor and stories and myths. And it was part of this is because we did not understand faith development to the extent that we do now. We had people who were going through the steps of faith development, and they arrived at that stage where you reject the things that you had been taught as literally true, and they had not moved to the next phase of going, oh, but there is also power in metaphor, in understanding things that are not literal. That song that you heard our amazing band do earlier, God Rest You Unitarians, that's not making fun of Christians or Christianity. It was written at this time period by UU minister Peter Rabel, and he was making fun of we UUs who would exchange comfort and joy for reason and fact. This, of course, is not an exchange, a trade-off that we have to make, because we can have all of it. We can have comfort and joy and metaphor and reason and fact. It's all in how we tell the story. But before I get into that, let's have a little mood music.
A soul cake, please good Mrs. A soul cake. Apple, a pear, a plum, or a cherry, any good thing to make us all merry. A soul cake, please good Mrs. A soul cake. 1 for Peter, 2 for Paul, and 3 for him that made us all.
Soul cake, please good Mrs. A soul cake. Apple, a pear, plum, or a cherry, any good thing to make us all merry.
God bless the master of this house, and the mistress also, and all the little children that round your table grow, the cattle in your stable, the dogs at your front door, and all that dwell within your gates. We wish you 10 times more. A soul cake, please good Mrs. A soul cake. An apple, a pear, a plum, or a cherry, any good thing to make us all merry. A soul cake, please good Mrs. A soul cake. 1 for Peter, 2 for Paul, and 3 for him that made us all, that made us all. Go down into the cellar and see what you can find. If the barrels are not empty, we'll hope that you'll be kind. We'll hope that you'll be kind with your apple and your pear, and we'll come no more a soul in till Christmas time next year. A soul cake, please good Mrs. A soul cake. An apple, a pear, a plum, or a cherry, any good thing to make us all merry. A soul cake, please good Mrs. A soul cake. 1 for Peter, 2 for Paul, and 3 for him that made us all. The streets are very dirty, my shoes are very thin. I have a little pocket to put a penny in, and if you haven't got a penny, halfpenny will do. If you haven't got a halfpenny, then God bless you. A soul cake, please good Mrs. A soul cake. Apple, a pear, plum, or a cherry, any good thing to make us all merry. A soul cake, please good Mrs. A soul cake. 1 for Peter, 2 for Paul, and 3 for him that made us all. God rest ye Unitarians, let nothing you dismay. Remember there's no evidence of that first Christmas day. A soul cake, please good Mrs. A soul cake. An apple, a pear, a plum or a cherry, any good thing to make us all merry. A soul cake, please good Mrs. A soul cake. 1 for Peter, 2 for Paul, and 3 for him that made us all.
So once upon a time, and Sanjeev, if you could pull up that sermon thing again. Let me get a little picture up here to extend the mood. Let's see here. There we go. Once upon a time, long, long ago, there were people who were looking for an excuse to party. Isn't it interesting that this is one of these core elements of being a human, because we find it in ancient times and we find it today? It's why we have things like May the 4th now, May the 4th be with you parties, and Pi Day. Anyone celebrate Pi Day on 3/14? Yes. We love looking for an excuse to get together and have music and special food and special drink, and especially across the earth, whenever you get to the winter time when it's cold and dark, we have that impulse and we want to add to it light and color and laughter and joy. And so in the whole history of civilization, we have evidence of so many different ways of celebrating in the midst of winter, different things, Saturnalia and Yule, the winter solstice. And there was a group of people who originally called themselves followers of the way. They later called themselves Christians, because there was a person who had lived and who presented a way of living that would make the whole world better. And so they were following his way. They were seeking to emulate him. And as is common with humans, whenever there is a person who inspires us, whether it is Jesus or MLK, we seek to commemorate their birth in some way. Now, they didn't know when Jesus was born. And I know one thing that we have often heard on the internet, I'm sorry, I'm going to debunk it, is this idea that the date was stolen from the pagans. And believe me, I understand how satisfying that theory is. It is one theory. However, among scholars, because we are Unitarian Universalist and we do believe in actual scholarly research, they believe that the reason why December 25th was chosen was because of something called the calculation hypothesis. At that time, all those years ago, people didn't always know, they didn't keep calendars in the same way that we do, and they didn't always know when someone had been born. They did frequently know when someone had died, especially if it was a significant historical person. And so there was sort of this literary convention that a significant person's death date was also their birth date. But in the case of Jesus, they made that his conception date, because the conception of Jesus would become a significant part of their theology. And so that was chosen, Annunciation Day, as March 25th. And so 9 months from then was December 25th, and that became Christmas. Now, what absolutely is unavoidable and can bring us pagans a lot of joy is the fact that there were so many different celebrations, midwinter celebrations, and so many of the traditions with those got pulled into the celebration of Christmas. Just as still today, we bring in different things from our local context into our celebration of Christmas. Anyone else here have tamales on Christmas Eve? Right, because that is significant in our context. In Japan, they celebrate, even though Christians are the minority in Japan, they celebrate Christmas. And one of the significant traditions there, does anyone happen to know this? KFC. Am I teaching you some new things today? It's true. You can Google it. KFC is a big part of Japanese Christmas. Like, you got to reserve it weeks in advance. Anyway, that's another story. You can look it up. Christmas, over the hundreds of years, developed and evolved in many ways. But from the get-go, it was often not this time of high religiosity, but a time for feasting and playing and having joy and colors. In the Middle Ages, this was the time, like soul cake. It was also a time of a social inversion, when the peasants would go and bang on the doors of the wealthy landowners and say, bring us a soul cake, bring us out good food and drink. And so the masters of the house would do so, buying themselves, hopefully, another year of the status quo in their heads. And yes, you might want to think about those of us who are the peasants. How are we knocking on the door and keeping the status quo? Again, another sermon. Point being, Christmas has continued to develop and evolve in so many different ways. And this fear that it is a heretical holiday, that it is not about high religiosity, has always been an issue, and it wouldn't be an issue unless it was something that was really happening, right? This is why the Puritans in England and then later in America outlawed Christmas, because they were high religious, and Christmas was not. Christmas was a heretical holiday. And over time, we have developed it into what it is now. I will say, with the influence of many Unitarians and many Universalists, notably Charles Dickens, the Unitarian, who took a very humanist idea that we as humans, if we combine compassion and justice with power, that we can literally save lives. Tiny Tim, right? And this has continued. If you look at so many of our stories, our fictional stories, but also the real life stories, these are stories of humanism. These are stories about how occasionally we can pull it all together and we can do amazing things. And Christmas is where it all gets crystallized down, where we seem to get a glimpse for just a moment of our power. In 1914, Germans and the English were fighting, and that power, the power of humans and the power of Christmas was so strong that you had the Christmas ceasefire, where the soldiers simply refused to fight. They refused to shoot each other. And instead, songs rang out, Christmas songs. They even got together. They exchanged gifts. You don't always hear the rest of the story. I think sometimes those who have heard this story have thought, oh yeah, but they went back to fighting the next day. No, actually, this was such a resistance to the military leaders. And now they had even had conversations. They had gotten to know the enemy. They had to send all of those people to the back lines and bring forward the people who had not been there, who had not looked each other face in the face and said, Merry Christmas. Every year there are these good, tender stories, human interest pieces, and what they boil down to is someone was inspired by the spirit of Christmas to do something loving and kind and generous for someone else. So when you get to this question of, do I celebrate Christmas? It's a question for you. But I would absolutely say if you want to, you can feel justified. Because if you look at the history of Christmas, not the story of Christmas, although that is absolutely a part of it, the Jesus story, but if you look at the whole history of the celebration of Christmas, you will find in it humans often being our very best selves. So this week, as you go out into the world, maybe consider the idea of how can you give another person faith in other humans. I invite you to join me in a time of reflection, in word and in silence. And if it helps, feel free to close your eyes so that you can go deeper inward. This is Christmas is Subversive by Kendall Gibbons. One of the great things about Christmas is that it is a sturdy holiday. Christmas doesn't wimp out when times are hard. It comes anyway, even if there are hardly any presents. Even when there isn't much food to make a feast with, even if you're sad, even if the world around you is at war, even if you are living in fear and danger and oppression, Christmas still comes. And when it comes, Christmas is subversive. Christmas, with its story of an unwed mother and a doubtful father, with its legend of a helpless baby born in a stable who was worshipped by some of the wisest, richest men in the world, with its tale of the child pursued by the deadly wrath of kings who escaped as a refugee to a foreign land far from home. Christmas, with its ancient, enduring summons of peace on earth, goodwill to all people everywhere. You can't stop a day like that with a little hardship or greed or injustice. It will show up anyway, shining the light of a midnight star into the darkest places of our collective lives. Do not underestimate the power of the manger and the hope it holds. The Christmas song of the angels is not as innocent as it sounds. It has turned the world upside down before now, and it still can. Let us hold that for a moment together in sacred stillness. Amen and blessed be. And would you please sing with me? When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. This community is a chosen village where our lives are interconnected. Part of the tapestry of our communal journey is sharing the significant milestones, joys, and sorrows in our lives and witnessing the diversity we hold. One of us may be celebrating a life event while another is mourning a grief. And there's a beauty in that mosaic as we are reminded that these moments of life are transient and ever-changing. And today, Catherine Inyart shares, I'm remembering my beautiful mom today on what would have been her 101st birthday. Sue Buckley shares, please wish Sandy Gilchrist a happy 80th birthday. Birthdays are to be worn as a badge of honor. And Julia shares, in a few weeks, my mom is getting remarried. Jess Oral shares, close family friend Mark Meeker fell and had brain surgery yesterday. Please send healing and positive vibes. Tina Van Winkle shares, the 9th anniversary of my wedding that led to divorce is this week. Some years it's easy to overlook. This year it's hard. And Cindy and son Jeeves share, Keegan got his first college acceptance. He was offered a merit scholarship at Drexel University. It's one of his top choices, so we're all very excited. And Bill Dower shares, thankful for the talented and generous musicians who make music with me for you. May this community draw closer with our shared experiences as we celebrate life's triumphs and navigate its trials together. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole. And I forgot to share one sorrow. Our faith development director, Chris Jarman, she had an aunt who was pretty much like a second mother to her who died unexpectedly, and that's why she's not with us today. She's headed to Florida for that funeral. And so she sent me the what's happening in faith development today. Adults and teens are invited to participate in our table discussions about today's sermon. The questions may be found in the fellowship hall on the tables. Grab some coffee and join a table for group facilitated discussion. And the kids have supervised play on the playground today. Please lend a hand on the playground if you are available. The children must be supervised, as must many of our adults. So you've got a week, the last week before Christmas. I will tell you, if you are not feeling the Christmas spirit, there's a shortcut to it. Go out and do something kind for someone else. I've shared before that often what ours is we'll go out to see the Christmas lights and we stop at Sonic to get some snacks for the road and leave an outrageous to us anyway, tip. It can be something as simple as that. And, it benefits someone else, but I will tell you, it has the other benefit of giving you a little of what you may be seeking right now. As Henri Frederick Emile said, life is short. We don't have much time to gladden the hearts of those who walk this way with us. So be swift to love and make haste to be kind.
And we need Teddy back. Please join me in extinguishing our chalice with these words by Unitarian Universalist Wayne Arneson. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. Let us leave this service with renewal in our spirit and a song in our hearts. Please rise for number 244, It Came Upon a Midnight Clear.
It came upon a midnight clear, that glorious song of old, from angels angels bending near the earth to touch their harps of gold. Peace on the earth, goodwill to men, from heaven the news we bring. The world in solemn stillness lay to hear the angels sing. Still through the cloven skies they come, with peaceful wings unfurled, and still their heavenly music floats o'er all the weary world. Above its sad and lonely plains they bend on hovering wing, and ever over its babble sounds the blessed angels sing. For lo, the days are hastening on, by prophet bards foretold, when with the ever-circling years comes round the age of gold, when peace shall over all the earth its ancient splendors fling, and the whole world give back the song which now the angels sing.
It has been a gift to be together today. Please spend the next 5 minutes talking with someone you don't know. Show them where the visitors' table and coffee are, and may we all know the blessings of friendship.
If you please. You're very welcome to help us sing this one. This is Stevie Wonder's Someday at Christmas. And watch the fact that we modulate a couple of times, which means it gets a little higher each time we kind of go through it. Someday at Christmas, men won't be boys, playing with bombs like kids play with toys. One warm December, our hearts will see a world where all are free. Someday at Christmas there'll be no wars, when we have learned what Christmas is for. When we have found what life's really worth, there'll be peace on earth. Someday all of our dreams will come to be. Someday in a world where everyone is free. Maybe not in time for you and me, but someday at Christmas time. Someday at Christmas we'll see a land with no hungry children and no empty hand. One happy morning people will share a world where people care. Someday at Christmas there'll be no tears. All will be equal without any fears. One shining moment, one prayer away from our world today. Someday all of our dreams will come to be. Someday in a world where all are free. Maybe not in time for you and me, but someday at Christmas time. Someday at Christmas peace will not fail. Hate will be gone and love will prevail. Someday a new world where we can start with hope in every heart. Someday all of our dreams will come to be. Someday in a world where everyone is free. Maybe not in time for you and me, but someday at Christmas time. Someday at Christmas time.
Sorry, one last quick announcement. In case there is anyone who has not been reading the newsletter, I don't want you to be surprised next Sunday morning. So next Sunday is Christmas Eve. We will not be having a morning service, although if you go online, we're going to have something special on our feed. But you are invited to come instead at 6 p.m. to our candlelight Christmas Eve service here.
Now go talk to each other.